Hello and welcome to the Visionless Designs YouTube channel, the channel where you get to see all the things that I can't. So today I'll be doing a quick review on my Powermatic 2244 drum sander. I've had this for 18 months now. It's been a very, very helpful tool. Requires a lot of, how do I put it? A lot of tweaking to figure out how to work it properly. Because you can overwork them. So here he is. It's 2244 because it's an open-sided machine. This means it can do 22 inches in one pass and 44 in two, which for me when I'm doing my large tables is especially helpful. It's not actually designed for leveling. It's more of a finish sanding. But if you are careful enough with the machine, it will actually level things off. So yeah, it's, how do I put this? It's kind of surprising, one thing about this. It's power consumption, despite the fact it's, sanding 22 inches, and it's got a conveyor belt. It consumes 1.2 kilowatts, which is 200 watts more than my 4-inch belt sander, which always amazes me. And it's quite quiet as well. So here we go. We've got a screen here somewhere. Obviously no good to me. If I flick the machine on, there we go. So that as the machine's running, will say how fast it is and how much it's struggling. It also, every time you flick the switch, it'll start at 0. So you've got a metric thing here on the side, which tells you how far the sander is from the actual base. But then the screen will tell you as you go down how much you've actually taken it. So if I take it down now, and stop there, it'll say how much I've dropped it. And if I flick it off, and on again, it'll now be back to 0. So you've got the power button there to actually start the sander, but the conveyor belt is separate altogether. It's this dial here that you turn. And you decide how quickly you want it to go. And of course you can turn the actual sander on itself without using the belt. There we go. You will need a 100mm dust extractor for this, which is designed for fine dust. It produces a lot of dust if you don't have the correct machine attached to it. Right, I'll show you some of the things I do with it now. Right, so here are one of the things I like to put through the sander. So this is a log ring cookie. This one is one of the old ones that was cut by my father-in-law with his chainsaw. So it's very lumpy. I think it's actually one of the better thickness ones, but sometimes they can be a quarter of an inch out. So I'm using my bandsaw to cut them now, because it gives a much smoother finish from the get-go. But yeah, with trying to do this with a belt sander, it's going to take forever. And the angle grinder will do it, but it'll never get it perfectly level, which with all my cookies now, I want them all as flat as possible. So yeah, I've got 40 grit sandpaper on the machine. So it's not something that is actually recommended for them. You can buy it, but it's not recommended because, like I did when I first got it with the 80 grit, people tend to overload the machines and it can burn the machine out. But if you just take it really slow, like I think it's about 1/10 of a crank each time, It doesn't strain the machine, and things come out quite nicely. So we'll get this on, and you can have a see how it goes. I'm going to just do a few passes through the machine. I'm going to get this one done now, and let's see how long it's going to take me.
Main menu, keyguard, swipe screen left right to unlock. Time 3:01 p.m. Monday,
3:01. Right, see how long it takes to get this done. Technically, some people won't need ear defenders for this because it's quite quiet, but it's always better to have ear protection regardless. So that's what that's done there. See, it's done a quite nice job, and it took quite a few cranks, but it's getting the job done. There's no point in cranking it too much because it'll start straining the machine. Right, so do a few more passes on this side. That's taken.
Swipe screen left right to unlock. Time 3:07 p.m. Monday.
3:07 now. It's taken 6 minutes. So just carry on with this now, and we'll see how it goes. Right, so it's 3:18 now, and it's got the one side done. It's not done the edges on a few little bits. Struggling to find them now. Handy. Well, I'm sure you can see them. That's fine because I tend to round off the edges of these anyway. But yeah, that's what it's done there. From that, so you can see there's a big difference between them. So I'm not sure if this is going to pick it up on the camera, but this does tend to leave lines going across the wood. Obviously, this is on a 40 grit. But it's not a case of light sanding to get the, well, it is a light sanding. You'll need to still go up the grits. So do an 80, then a 120, 180, and it should get the lines out. If you're struggling to get them out, just keep at it a little bit more on the lower grit. But yeah, what I'll do now is flip it over to that side, which a point I forgot to mention before I started. When you're first putting things through, put it down and find out what side is the least wobbly, because that way, like for example, if it's dished, you want it going upwards, so you're taking the belly out, you get that side flat, and then put it through, because it gives a much equal finish as it goes through. What we can do on this, because I didn't do it before, I mean it's not really much use to me, but if I flick this off now and back on again, then we'll see just how much I have to take off to get the top level. Right, and we'll get back onto this now and see how long this takes. Right, so I've finished both sides now on the rough sanding, so there we go. That's the one side I've just been sanding, and there's the other. So from what it was before, a hell of a lot better, and it's level. Still a bit of a dip in this on the one side, but that I find acceptable. I'll just go over that with the belt sander. It's on the edges. So that took down, I think I was told 3.4 mil. 3.1. And that took me 10 minutes. So what will that be? So 25 minutes in total it took me to level off this. So to some people that might not be a long time. I mean, this was actually a fairly quick one for what I was doing. Some of them can take 40 minutes plus if they have a three-quarter inch or 18, 19 mil taper on them. So it depends on what you're putting through it. For this purpose, it'd actually be better with a router, setting up a jig for that. But as it is, this does it fine. I think this is more for your big tables, for thickness in them, because that's more worth spending a lot of time on than things like these. Again, it depends on how much you're selling them for. I made a bit of a mistake earlier. The first button on here is the for a call metric and imperial button, and then there's a reset button on the other side, so you don't actually have to turn the machine on and off. On the screen as well, I don't know if you could see it as it was going, there should have been a line with some numbers which says how much strain the machine is under. It's a good way of gauging how you want to keep it below 7, I think it is. trying to gauge it. So like when I first started using the machine, I was doing a full entire turn of the handle, and the machine wasn't liking that. Then I swapped to half a turn, and then dropped to a quarter, and now you saw how many. I can do like 10 to 15 turns of the handles I'm going around now. The reason for that is it was burning the wood, but also the belts were shearing as well. So if you want to access the sandpaper, obviously you got the lid here. Obviously that's where the dust extractor pipe goes. If you want to take the cover off, there's a nut at the bottom here with an Allen key. I just use my fingers, however, because I don't want to be going back and forth trying to find an Allen key. There we go. And there's the sandpaper. This currently is 40 grit on it. So if you want to do the belt cleaning, obviously you'd have it open like this and have it turned on, and then just slowly run back and forth with it until it's cleaned. And when it comes to putting the sandpaper on, you start on the left side of the machine here, and there's a little clip on the side you clip it into, and then you just roll it in. And obviously because you're rolling it around, that's why you need the tapered cut on it, so it actually goes on smoothly. And then it finishes on this end, and this end. Whoop, trap my jacket. Yep, there's a clip there. And what this one tends to do, you've got to pull this one quite tight and put the paper in. And when it releases, it'll actually pull the paper tight, which is something that you want to check regularly when using the machine, because over time the paper will stretch and this will become loose, and if it starts to become too loose, the paper can overlap, wreck what you're sanding, and then tear the paper to pieces. So you always want to keep an eye on this. It's again why I drop the sandpaper by a little bit at a time, because it doesn't stretch the paper as much, so I don't have to worry. But yeah, just come back and regularly check this. You do want to try and get this right. You want to make sure that it goes in tight. So when you first put the paper on, you will need to trim the end so it actually goes in, because it will go to a certain point and you can't push any more paper in. So just take off a smidgen at a time, probably like ½ centimetre each time, and then keep poking it down. So obviously if you cut too much off, well then it's not going to have very much grip on it, and if you don't cut enough and it stays loose, then you've got a problem with the paper crossing over. Right, so on the back of the machine here we've got the storage compartment door, which I'll be honest is pretty handy. Just the lever there you lift up and pull out. Yeah, it's handy for storing things like the big belts, like here the belts that you can cut yourself, which are a bit more awkward but a lot cheaper than buying the pre-cut ones. It's also handy if you're pre-cutting them. I've got here, got a block to cut the paper on so I'm not damaging the floor, and then we've got a template for the end, because the paper has a taper on it in order for it to go on properly, so it's handy having that there as a guide. Oh, we had to cut those ourselves. They were it was quite awkward trying to cut the paper separately. Yeah, it's also handy for storing other things in here, like for example I've got the belt cleaner here. It's just like it's almost like a rubber for sandpaper. It basically pulls out any of the dust that has got stuck in the grit, so it can save you quite a lot of time, because you can just clean the paper as it wears down rather than having to change the paper. So it is definitely a handy thing to have for hand, not just for the drum sanders but for any of your belts that you have, or sandpapers. So with the drum sander, you've obviously got these tables here which are adjustable. There's a bolt on the underside which you can use to adjust the height. So what I tend to do every time I need to reset them, because they do drop over time with the weight, is put a nice big spirit level on there and then raise it up. And the big mistake I tend to make is I tend to raise this so it's completely flat against this on both sides. The initial thinker is, oh, you want it to be as level as possible. You don't. So the problem is, if they're completely level, it means that there's less force on the conveyor belt. You want it to be just fractionally lower than the conveyor belt, just so it actually gets the grip and pulls it through. You don't want it too low, otherwise it can be uneven. So you've got like almost a nail thickness. I should just put my hand under like that, go along it on both sides, and that's how I get them. Again, you've got to get it right for big long things, otherwise it does tend to throw them off. So on the side here we've got the brakes for the machine. It's just these two knobs here. Now, as I said earlier, this can be quite annoying, as these wheels, they only go forwards and backwards, so you can pull it that way and that way, but there's no, if you want to actually turn it, you've got to physically turn the entire machine. So originally I was using the tables to turn it, but that obviously was throwing the level off, and I was having to reset it regularly. So try and actually grab the machine base and try and twist it. Really wish it would have come with some swivel wheels, at least on one side, like my thickness sander. It would have helped out a lot. We tend to just wheel this to one side of the workshop and pull it out now for ease. But yeah, really would have been better if it had the spinning wheels. But yeah, you definitely want to remember to put the brake on when in use. More of a, as you go, and it can slowly creep a little bit. So just, yeah, if there's a brake, make sure to use it. Right, so that's my take on the Powermatic PM224 drum sander. I do quite love this machine. It's been pretty handy for, well, leveling off the cookies as shown. I also did a previous video showing me leveling off a kitchen side. It's not really meant to be for thicknessing, but yeah, I mean, it will do it over time. Using it for batch sanding, like I do with my cookies, when I've leveled them with the router, that's where it's more handy, because it's a case of putting everything through and getting them sanded really quickly. I don't really like using them for the coasters, because, well, it's only doing the top or the bottom, not the sides. Other than that though, yeah, this machine, definitely handy for me. Most people, if they're doing large batches of things, yeah, you'll find this handy machine to do. Or even if you're just doing a handful of large slabs each year, because yeah, if you do, this one's mainly meant for the people that have things wider than 22 inches to do. Otherwise you'll just get a much cheaper non-open-ended sander. But yeah, I hope you found this review helpful. Please check out the website, visionlessdesigns.com, to help support the channel, as well as check out my Instagram, Facebook and Etsy links down below. Hope see you in future videos. Thank you very much.